Welcome everyone, my name is Rigel, and in this video I'm gonna talk about my thoughts on the FIFA World Cup group stage draw, which happened early on in December. Now, I didn't actually watch most of the draw. I had the stream on, but I had it muted most of the time, and I was watching instead the reaction of several football YouTubers to the draw itself. It was very chaotic because I was following like 5 or 6 streams all at once. And they were not best pleased with the proceedings of the draw itself. Like, why did we have to have musical performances and all the Trump glazing and stuff like that? That's a phrase I would not like to say for the rest of my life. Thank you very much. But yeah, the draw was terrible, and I think you're much better off just checking the results afterwards than to actually watch the live stream as it happens. But it's the same information output either way, except you get maybe a few inside jokes about Wayne Gretzky pronouncing Curacao as Caraco, and North Macedonia as North Macedonia, which, again, to be fair, that is like the native Slavic pronunciation, but it's not how it's pronounced in English. So yeah, I guess Wayne Gretzky just never got a proper briefing in how to pronounce the names of the countries, but it's a mess. Okay. With that said, that's all I'm gonna say on the actual draw itself. It was a massive farce. And they managed to dig up village people to sing YMCA at the very end, because apparently it's like Trump's favorite song or something like that. So, okay, yeah. Anyways, that's enough of the draw itself. Let's get to the results, and let's get to the countries which are in each of the groups. There are 12 groups, which is huge. It's going to take a while to go through each of them, but I'm going to give my thoughts on each group and what I think at this point in time, what I think the ranking could be, both a reasonable guess and maybe something a little bit more hopeful, a little bit more manifesting. I might not do that for every single group, but I will give what my thoughts are, my kind of vague prediction at this point in time, based on current form, based on that's really it, to be honest. I'll be honest, a lot of YouTubers place way too much emphasis on like legacy and stuff like that, which to me it doesn't really make sense. But let's get into Group A, which consists of Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, and the UEFA PAF D winner. Now, obviously Mexico is one of the hosts, and all of the games in this group, in the group stage, will take place in Mexico. Some of them will take place in Zapopan, some of them will take place in Guadalupe, which, as I have already mentioned, are actually two of the the two host locations for the Intercontinental Playoff, which is happening in March. I already mentioned this, but Zapopan is actually in the Guadalajara area. It's actually just counted as Guadalajara. And you also have Guadalupe, which is near... it's not showing up on here right now. Okay, there you go. Monterrey. And yeah, I believe it's Path A, which is in Monterrey, or... it doesn't really matter, but it's Monterrey, which will be receiving Bolivia, Iraq, and Suriname, while the other one in Guadalajara, that will be DR Congo, Jamaica, and New Caledonia. Anyways, those stadiums will be used for the actual games themselves, unsurprisingly, and also I kind of lied. Mexico is not hosting every single game in this group. You can see there, Atlanta is hosting one, which is going to be the UEFA PAF D winner against South Africa. But yeah, let's get into the group itself. It's a really, really balanced group, actually. I couldn't really tell you at this point in time who's going to come first, who's going to get grouped, who's going to come second, etc. Because like a lot of these teams are they're not doing the better teams are not doing as well as they probably should be, and the worst teams are doing better than they are normally expected to do. I think that's one way of putting it. But yeah, with all that said, with all of the predictions and all of the ball knowledge that I have gained from watching various football YouTubers, I would say the first game is a 1-1, just as it was in 2010. But I'm not going to predict every single game because this video would take absolute ages. But I think the first game will be 1-1, but otherwise, I think in the end, South Africa, I think, is going to top the group. And then, oh, by the way, if you're not aware, this is not actually the thing. This is not actually the results. We haven't played any matches yet, obviously, but this is just what the final layout is going to look like. The top two will advance, and then the third country in each group could go to the knockout stage as well if they are the top 8 out of the 12, and so you would actually have to have a 1 in 3 chance of not going to the knockout if you are a third place country. So with that said, getting back on topic, I think that South Africa would top the group, followed by Mexico, and then oh yeah, I didn't even talk about who I think the Path D winner will be. You know what? Let's just mix it up. I think everyone is predicting Denmark, so I'm gonna go predict Ireland. Let's say it is Ireland. I think Ireland will be third in this group, and then South Korea will be last. Now, this is again just a a quick little prediction. It's nothing too serious. But if what I'm seeing is correct, South Korea has been kind of underperforming, and so on that basis, I think they might not be doing as well as I hope to do. It won't be 0 points. I think they will, at the very least, draw one game or something like that, but I don't think they'll have enough points to get into third place, and I think it'll be South Africa, Mexico, and Ireland, or honestly whichever European team. I think in this case it doesn't matter all that much, to be honest, like unless it's North Macedonia coming through of all countries. But the other three, I think in a wider scale, I don't think it makes that much difference in this group. But that is this group, and in the next group, I think it does kind of matter, because we have Canada and then the UEFA Path A winner, which will be either Italy, Wales, Bosnia and Herzegovina, or Northern Ireland. And then we have Qatar and Switzerland. And this will be really interesting, because I think most people predict Italy to qualify, and fair enough, they have a good chance of qualifying based on sheer talent. But I actually predicted in my video, link in the description, that Wales would qualify, because Wales is first hosting the game against Bosnia, and then they are hosting the game against whoever comes through from the other side of the path, which is most likely Italy. So Italy would have to go play Wales in Cardiff, and the Millennium Stadium is absolutely massive. It's like, 60,000 capacity or something like that. And Wales, when they play at home, is a completely different beast. Now, granted, they did lose 4-2 to Belgium during the qualifying stage, but they also beat North Macedonia 7-1, and famously North Macedonia beat Italy. So yeah, obviously it doesn't work like that, and I know I'm just talking for funsies, but yeah, I think that Wales will qualify from that path, and so Wales, I think, will go to the World Cup for the first time since 2016, I think, when they had like Gareth Bale and stuff like that. But yeah, for the purposes of this, let's just say it's Wales, okay? Canada, Wales, Qatar, Switzerland. Now, Canada would be really liking this draw, I think, because if you missed it, Canada recently played Wales, actually. I think it was in Cardiff, and Canada won. It wasn't a very convincing win, granted, it was 1-0, but Canada did win against Wales, so that will give them some confidence going into this. And likewise, a lot of the games in this group are going to be taking place in Canada. You can see Toronto, you can see Vancouver. Well, okay, that's only like 3 matches out of 6, but still, yeah, all of the games taking place in Canada will be hosted, or rather, all of the games involving Canada will take place in Canada. So by default, Canada has a kind of home advantage, but some people have raised the good points that if Italy qualifies and Canada has to face Italy, it will be almost a home game for Italy, because there are a lot of Italian Canadians who live in Toronto, apparently, and it's the opening match of the whole group, so that will be very interesting if Italy does come through, of course. If it's Wales, well, I don't really know if there's a lot of Welsh Canadians out there. I'm sure they exist, but obviously nowhere near the extent of Italian Canadians. But yeah, this will be very interesting, and I think it's hard to express all of this in one go, but let's go very quickly, each team one by one. Canada, they're doing not as well as they were doing, or as well as their global ranking might indicate, but again, they are playing all of their games in Canada, so there's a home field advantage a little bit. And then for the Path A winner, again, let's assume it's Wales. They've been kind of on a very much up and down, and when they play in Cardiff, they are unstoppable. Well, not really unstoppable. They can be stopped by Belgium, but at the same time, I'm not really sure current Italy could beat Belgium, to be very honest. But yeah, I think Wales is doing all right. On their day, they can be amazing, but it's not always their day. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I have doubts, but I don't think they're going to get last, because I think that Qatar is very clearly going to come last in this group. They literally qualified to the tournament with Akram Afif and a dream, and yeah, I think there is no other outcome than them getting grouped, essentially. And Switzerland, they are just a very competent side. They don't score a lot of goals necessarily, but they score enough and defend well enough that I think they can qualify very comfortably. So I think in order, from the bottom up, that is, I think it'll be Qatar, Wales, Canada, and then Switzerland. I think Switzerland will top the group, and then Canada will do decently well enough to get second in the group, and then Wales or Italy. Honestly, I think Italy has kind of fallen off. I think they will get third, and I think they will be good enough to qualify to the knockouts, but I'm not really discussing that in this video anyways. I'm just talking about the groups themselves. But I think whichever European side it is, other than maybe Northern Ireland, I think we'll get third in the group, and then Qatar are just not a very good team other than Akram Afif and a dream. So yeah, that is Group B. Let's move on to Group C. This is gonna be wild. Brazil, Morocco, Haiti, and Scotland. Now, as my kind of civic duty, I have to support Scotland, and that will come back again later on when I make more videos about the World Cup, and yes, I will make more videos about the World Cup. But let's go kind of country by country. For Brazil, this is possibly one of the weakest Brazils that we've seen in quite some time. It doesn't mean they're bad. I mean, they've got their own B team called the UAE, wink wink nudge nudge, and that team is doing fine in Asia, I think. And yeah, so Brazil aren't terrible, but this is one of the worst Brazils that we've seen in a hot minute. So they qualified 5th out of 6 in the South American qualifying round. So yeah, it is not a great look for them. I think they were even lower than Paraguay of all countries. I think I can't actually remember. I didn't really follow South American qualification too closely, but Brazil are not looking the hottest, and that's partly because they don't have Neymar anymore, who's playing for his home club and trying to save them from relegation or something like that. That's what I've heard. Neymar isn't really playing, and from what I've seen, isn't super likely to be playing for the World Cup either for Brazil. So this is a weaker Brazil than we've seen. So, interesting things could happen in the group. Then we have Morocco, who are arguably at least a top 2 team in all of Africa right now. They are really competent. Obviously, in the last World Cup, they made it all the way to the semifinals, and they got knocked out there, and they were the first ever African country to make it that far. And I don't think they'll make it that far this time, but they are still a very competent side. As of recording this video, Morocco has just beaten the UAE 3-0 in the FIFA Arab Cup, which is a really strong result. I mean, again, UAE aren't the best team ever, but Morocco is still showing some really good results, and they're about to go into the AFCON, I think next week as of recording this. And they'll try to prove whether they can at least top their group, if not outright win the whole thing, which happens to be hosted in Morocco. So we'll have to see what happens. Moving on to Haiti, they fought really hard to get here from CONCACAF, having played not a single home game. They've played tons of games in Curacao, interestingly enough. But they've made it here ahead of Costa Rica, ahead of Honduras, and unfortunately, I don't think they'll do particularly well. They are a very physical team. You have players like Pirot, you have players like Placide, who are doing very well for the team. Unfortunately, even if they get a few more dual nationals and stuff on the team, I'm not really too confident that they'll do well in this group. But every World Cup has a surprise, and maybe they are the surprise. Then we have Scotland, who, of course, on the last day of qualifying, gave Denmark a bicycle kick, and then an absolutely insane goal from Kieran Tierney, and then a goal from halfway across the pitch to end off the whole game to beat Denmark and qualify for the World Cup. Now, I mean, obviously, I'm biased. I've followed Scotland and Scottish affairs for more than 5 years now at this point. But I think this is a really strong Scottish side. And, I might be talking out my ass right now, but I don't think there's an upper limit to what countries Scotland can beat. In the sense that they are always the underdog, and as the underdog, they are just somehow able to pull out absolute golazzos, and they can beat top sides like Denmark and a very agile Greek side, for example. And I don't think there's a ceiling to the countries they can beat. The keyword there is can. They can also fail very hard, as they did against Greece when they went to Athens and lost 3-2. But they are a team that fights, and as is Haiti, actually. So what do I think will happen in this team, or this group, rather? I think Haiti is going to be last. I'm sorry. I think they could pull a draw maybe against one of the teams, but I don't think they will be winning any of them. Scotland, oh God, I'm biased. I've said that the millionth time already. I think, okay, here's a little bit of balance. I don't think they'll be top 2, but I think they'll be hot on the heels of second place and be one of the countries that qualifies to the knockout stage. So, okay, there you go. Third place, Scotland, but very close to second place. And in second place, I'm not going to put Morocco. I'm going to put Brazil. I think this Brazil side is really not showing its best right now. They got beaten by some random countries in recent friendlies, and Morocco are just doing very well, and I think the AFCON is going to show that as well, and the AFCON is just another layer of practice against different sides, some of the sides which will also be at the World Cup, of course, and yeah, that means I think Morocco will top the group, but I don't think it will be very convincingly, and okay, hear me out. This sounds crazy, but for a few weeks now, I've had this vision in my head that Scotland beats Brazil 2-0. I don't know where I got this from. I've just had this vision of that happening, and you can talk about how likely that is in the comments. But in the same way that Ireland beat Portugal, I somehow see Scotland beating Brazil the exact same way, even though they are pretty different teams in terms of play style and everything, but I see it happening somehow. And just like last World Cup, we had Saudi Arabia beat Argentina, so this could happen, and I might just be having hallucinations at this point, but that's just something that I see happening. I don't know how, I don't know why, I just see it happening. We'll just have to wait 6 months to find out whether that is in fact the case. For now, let's move on to Group D, where we have the US, Paraguay, Australia, and the UEFA Path C winner, which could be Turkey, Slovakia, Kosovo, or Romania. Now, this is another interesting group, and one of the reasons I find it interesting is because I have another playoff prediction that will also shake things up. Now, everyone is predicting Turkey, and don't get me wrong, I think the likelihood of Turkey winning the playoff and going to the World Cup is very likely, but behind them, some people have rated Slovakia or Romania. I think Kosovo actually has a really good shot at going to the World Cup, not least since if they win against Slovakia, they will be hosting the game against Turkey in Pristina, in the capital of Kosovo. So I think Kosovo actually has a pretty good shot at going to the World Cup for the first time ever, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, but they've been playing some pretty damn good football lately, I'll be honest. But yeah, let's get into the group. Actually, let's just go bottom up. Well, in this order anyway. Starting with the UEFA Path C winner, which could be Turkey, could be Kosovo. I don't think it will be the other two. I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't think Kosovo has played too many of these teams before. If it's Turkey, I think they could do some pretty good damage with really strong stars that are playing in various European leagues. Everyone's talking about Kenan Yildiz, of course. But I think Kosovo could do pretty well as well in this group, to be honest. I think obviously they'll be new to this side. They'll be new to this level of football, frankly, but it could be an interesting experience, and I don't know, maybe they could beat some of the teams that aren't 100% at their A game. I think going on current form, I would say, God, that is hard. I think if it's Kosovo, then they are at the bottom of the group. If it's Turkey, I think they'll be above Australia, who will be at the bottom of the group, but they will only be third. And then second, I'll have the US, and first, I'll have Paraguay, because Paraguay actually qualified out of their group in South America in really, really good form, and I think if they continue that form into the World Cup, I think they could do pretty well in their group as well. But the US will do pretty well, of course. They did, 5-1 against Uruguay recently with a B team. So, yeah, they could stand to do really well in this group as well. But for now, I think Paraguay will top the group, but the U.S. absolutely could as well. And people have talked about this previously, but the U.S. has already played Paraguay and Australia in recent friendlies, and the U.S. won both of those matches. So it's looking good for the U.S., but I think the top two are U.S. and Paraguay in whichever order, and then whoever comes through in UEFA Path C, I think if it's Turkey, they'll probably be third. If it's Kosovo, sadly, I think it will be fourth, but they could surprise again. I hope they do, actually, but we'll just have to see what happens. With that said, let's move on to Group E, where we have Germany, Curacao, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador. And this is a really tough first time World Cup group for Curacao. And I wish they had been drawn into a group that's slightly easier, like, say, the group with Canada or the group with Belgium in it. But it is what it is. They have to play Germany, possibly with a now recovered Jamal Musiala, but we'll have to see whether that's the case. Right now, it's not looking great for Curacao, and I'll be honest, if they get a goal against Germany, honestly, mission accomplished, to be honest. And the other two teams, Ivory Coast and Ecuador, are both extremely defensive teams, except Ecuador even more so, because they don't really have attackers on the team at all. And Ivory Coast, obviously, they did amazingly well in their group during African qualifying. They drew one match, and that was with Gabon, I think. And or did they beat Gabon? I can't actually remember. But they topped their group in World Cup qualifying. But of course, you can say they weren't really playing extremely hard opponents there. But overall, I would still say that Ivory Coast has a better offensive output compared to Ecuador, which, I think is not going to fare that well for Ecuador. I think, across 18 games, they scored 5 goals or something like that, and they went 0-0 against Argentina, against Brazil, against Uruguay. I think, I'll be honest, I didn't follow South American qualifying, but they drew so many of their games 0-0, but they can't score to actually turn that defense into an advantage, because they just keep on defending and not actually gaining any points or anything from that. So I worry for them. But for now, my predictions would be 4th place, Curacao. Again, they are not a bad team at all. I mean, they literally across 2 games they managed to get 2 goals against Jamaica, so they're not pushovers at all. But I think this is a very tough group for them. If they can get a goal against Germany, or really against any of the other 2 teams, that will be mission accomplished for them. I think 3rd place, I think I would put Ecuador. Because they can draw so many games, but they can't score for their lives. I think this will be really bad for them in terms of goal difference, and I would actually put Ecuador as one of the 4 teams who don't make it to the knockout stage from 3rd place, because their goal difference is just nothing whatsoever. And then in 2nd place, I would put Ivory Coast. Again, similar story to Ecuador, but they have slightly more offensive output. And then in 1st place, I would put Germany. It would be challenging for sure. I absolutely do not think they're getting 9 points, but I think they could break through either Ecuador or Ivory Coast to get 6 points, maybe 6 points, 7 points to top the group, but it's not going to be too convincing. Some people have pointed out that the play styles of Ecuador and Ivory Coast do not favor Germany, so we could see some sort of upset. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an upset, but I also do not see Curacao qualifying to the knockout stage. Unfortunately, maybe come back in 2 or 3 World Cups. We'll see how much they've improved, but for now, I think this is just a contest for the vibes for Curacao. But I do have some more stuff to talk about for Curacao later on in the video. But let's get through all the groups first before we get there. And the next group is Group F, with the Netherlands, Japan, UEFA Path B winner, and Tunisia. And the UEFA Path B winner could be Ukraine, Poland, Albania, or Sweden. For the time being, I'm going to pick Poland. It's the boring pick, but honestly, I think they're the most on form. Sweden are terrible at the moment. Albania are fine, but honestly, I don't think they hold a candle to Poland. Ukraine are pretty good, but I think if I were to pick which team looks more competent right now, I would say Poland. So I would say it's Poland that comes through from Path B. So we have Netherlands, Japan, Poland, and Tunisia. Now, this will be a very interesting group as well. Again, there's no immediate runaway favorites from any of them, and I'm not really sure who goes through, honestly, in which position, because there's just so many different possibilities here, to be honest. And with this, I want to talk about a little something, which is that a lot of European teams, I think, are being kind of overrated in the predictions from football YouTubers. They think that, countries like the Netherlands, like Germany, like Belgium will do really, really well and just absolutely steamroll everyone. And I just really don't think that's the case. I'll be honest, a lot of the qualifying that I've watched from the likes of Germany and Netherlands have been pretty underwhelming, and I think in this group that is just further compounded, because if Poland does come through in Path B, that's Poland meeting the Netherlands again after meeting them in the same group in qualifying, and you need to remember that in both games it was a 1-1 draw, so across 2 games, the Netherlands were not able to beat Poland. So I don't know how people think that they can just convincingly top the group. But I will freely admit that I don't know enough about Tunisia to really comment too much on them. But they are a pretty competent side, although they did get knocked out by Palestine in the Arab Cup, but of course that's probably not the full Tunisian squad. Some of them are probably playing leagues in Europe or something. But Palestine knocked them out in the Arab Cup. But I would say they're still overall pretty competent. I would still put them 4th in the group, though. I don't think they're gonna win a game. I think they might draw at least one of them with maybe Poland or maybe Netherlands, but I don't think they're going to win any games here. And then in 3rd place, I would put Poland. Honestly, I don't think that really changes that much. I'll be honest. I don't think they can beat Japan. That is the thing. They might beat Tunisia. They will probably draw Netherlands again, but I don't think they can beat Japan. And then above them, I would put Netherlands. Again, I really don't think they are as competent as everyone says they are. They've got some good players, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they are super talented. I would actually give that mantle to Japan. They are one of the top sides in all of Asia right now. I would put them to top the group and to advance to the knockouts as the top country in Group F. So that is Group F. Let's move on to Group G, where we have Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. That is also going to be fun. We don't really know how well New Zealand are going to do because they've not played a lot outside of Oceania, which is mostly just a cakewalk at this point. But, they've qualified out of there, and I think they're going to schedule some friendlies as well. I think during qualifying or shortly after qualifying, um, in Europe, that is, New Zealand played a match against Norway and drew 1-1, which is kind of impressive. But at the same time, Holland wasn't there. A lot of the good players like Oscar Bob, like Antonio Nusa weren't there, so what do I know, right? But no, New Zealand are a pretty competent side in world football. Of course, in 2010, they drew 3 matches and actually didn't qualify. So that's something interesting that happened. And so that's that's New Zealand. Let's move on to Iran, who are still technically one of the top sides in Asia, but they are far from their glory days. There's conflict between the players and the coach apparently, and they played games against Uzbekistan, and recently I think Uzbekistan beat them. I think it was a 0-0 or 1-1 draw, and then Uzbekistan beat them on penalties. So I think they are definitely in decline, but probably not as quickly as some would imagine, if that makes sense. But that is Iran. They are still a top side in all of Asia, to be honest. But let's now move on to Egypt, who also are one of the top sides in Africa. They tops their group in African qualification, of course. But they aren't super convincing otherwise. I've watched some of their games, and they are not that convincing, but they are going to be at the AFCON, I believe. So we'll have to see how well Egypt do at the AFCON, but we'll just have to see what happens in that. And that's also why they haven't been really scheduling any friendlies lately, but we'll just see what happens, to be honest. And then we have Belgium, the only European side in this round, who are really lucky by drawing this group, actually. And like with the Netherlands, I think they are not a particularly competent side. Well, they are competent, but not as much as some football YouTubers give them credit for. So I actually don't think they'll top this group. This might be a controversial opinion. I think Iran are going to top this group. Not by a lot, and not by a lot of points, but I think they will top this group. And then after that, I would put Belgium, and after that, I would put Egypt, and at the bottom, New Zealand. They could well draw all their games again, and then get 3 points, and then get grouped again. But we'll have to see what happens. They might get beaten in one of the games. They're a pretty good side, but they are also one of the worst sides by FIFA ranking in this whole tournament, unless like Suriname qualifies or something. But that is Group G. I think, once again, I think Iran will top it, possibly in a controversial opinion. And then we have Belgium, and then Egypt, and then New Zealand. So with that, let's move on to Group H, where we have another debutant. We have Spain playing Cape Verde, and then Saudi Arabia and Uruguay. And there's a lot of different things at play here, and I'm not really sure how things will go. It's a cakewalk for Spain. It's obviously, if they don't get 9 points, it'll be a miracle. They're just one of the strongest sides in Europe and the world right now, so it would be a miracle, frankly, if they didn't get 9 points. But that Spain, I think we can easily lock them in for first place in the group. We don't really have to talk about it, really. And then we have Cape Verde, who are having their first ever World Cup run. Ironically, not that they've qualified for the AFCON either, so they will be one of 2 African countries who have qualified to the World Cup, but not to the AFCON, because the AFCON qualification actually took place last year, just kind of FYI. And the other African country that didn't qualified for the AFCON but did qualify for the World Cup was Ghana, which we're going to get to later, of course. But yeah, that is Cape Verde. It's a harsh group to be put in for their first ever World Cup, of course, like Curacao, but I think this one's actually a bit more doable. I'll talk about that a bit later. And then we have Saudi Arabia, who, much to my surprise, actually does have most of their players coming from Saudi Arabia, unlike the UAE. I only learned this recently. I didn't follow Asian qualification all that much, but most of the players do come from Saudi Arabia itself. And then I remembered that Saudi Arabia is the biggest country by far in all of the Middle East, even including Iran, I think, or just about similar size maybe. But Saudi Arabia is a pretty good side. I mean, like they beat Argentina 2-0 in the last World Cup, but they are a pretty good side, but not as good as people think, probably. And then there's Uruguay, who obviously have a lot of World Cup pedigree, but they are also kind of imploding right now under Bielsa. I've heard that name tossed around a lot, but they are kind of imploding. They are not playing their best. I mean, again, they got beaten by the US 5-1, with them actually having most of their main team playing in this game, but they're not looking too hot right now. They could improve in the next 6 months, of course, but we'll just have to see what happens. But my predictions, I would say Spain obviously tops it. I think there is no universe in which Spain does not top this group. Second, I think I would still put Uruguay. They are in a mess right now, but I think they are still competent enough to get second in the group, maybe just on goal difference, but I think they can still at least beat Saudi Arabia. And third, I would put Cape Verde, actually, not Saudi Arabia. I think the Saudis are doing all right, but I think Cape Verde could break through them and have enough points based on, again, goal difference maybe, to get to the knockouts. I think, I actually predict that Cape Verde could go to the knockout for the first time in the country's footballing cycle, I guess, footballing history. But honestly, I think for me, second and third are very much interchangeable. I think Cape Verde could actually get second in the group, which sounds crazy as I say it, but if Uruguay still shows up and they're still imploding and Bielsa is still there, then Cape Verde could very much sneak a 1-0 or 2-1 win against them, or beat them on penalties or something like that. Do they have penalties in the group stage? I don't actually remember. I don't think they do. Never mind. But I do think Cape Verde could win against Uruguay if they continue to implode like this. And Saudi Arabia, again, they are a competent side, but I think all three other teams have what it takes to, at the very least, draw with them, if not beat them. So I would put them at the bottom of this group. Let's move on now to arguably the group of death. It is Group I, and we have France, Senegal, the Intercontinental Path 2 winner, which will either be Iraq, Bolivia, or Suriname, and Norway. Now, to quote Deadball TV, whoever does qualify from the Interconfederation playoff will be the Interconfederation lamb to the slaughter. Oh, God. I'll be honest, this is such a crazy, crazy group. Now, for those who don't know, Senegal is, like, other than Morocco, they are basically the other of the top two teams in all of Africa right now. Like, you can argue which one is first, which one is second, but I think a lot of people will argue, or agree rather, that Senegal and Morocco are at least top 3, if not top 2 of all teams in Africa. Now, someone made a kind of racist joke, or quote unquote lighthearted racist joke by saying that Senegal is playing Senegal too by playing France, but actually, my understanding is that the current French squad does not actually have any Senegalese in it. They have other African origin French players, but not any actual Senegalese right now. That's just my understanding. I think Mbappe is Ivorian or something like that. That might be wrong. I might be making stuff up, but yeah, I just don't think it's a particularly nice joke to be making, and it's not that funny. But yeah, France does not need much introduction right now. They are a bit messy, pun not intended. They're a bit messy right now under Deschamps, which this will be his last World Cup, actually, I think. But they've not been very tidy, they've not been very in order, but they have some really great ballers like Mbappe, of course, who will still undoubtedly bring them an absolutely great result. Senegal, like I said, they are one of the top teams in Africa right now, even if they aren't necessarily at their peak, I would say. I don't think anyone would say Senegal are currently at their peak, but they are still really solid, really competent side in Africa. So, I expect a really, really good fight between them and any other team in this group. For Intercontinental Path 2, I honestly don't know who will win that group. Again, the obvious choice is Iraq, but I don't think we can rule out Suriname just yet. And honestly, at this point, it doesn't really matter. I don't think any of these three will hold a candle to any of the other three in the actual group. And then, of course, we have Norway with Holland, with Oscar Bob, with Antonio Nusa, Odegaard. I could go on forever. This Norwegian squad is stacked, and they work together really, really well. I talked about this in the European qualifiers video, but this is not just about Holland, right? In France, you have Mbappe, sure, but the team is a little bit disjointed, it's a little bit disconnected, maybe you could say. They're still trying to find an identity. They're still trying to find what they're good at doing. They have good individual players, but they have really good individual players, but they don't necessarily work all that well as a team. I mean, during qualification, they drew 2-2 to Iceland, and in another game against Iceland, they 2-1 or something like that. It was still a really close result. So they're not perfect. They haven't been perfect, but they are still a very much competent team, one of the top teams of the world still. But with Norway, you have obviously Holland, but you have a whole support system for Holland, which themselves are also capable of doing some damage. I mean, looking at Antonio Nusa especially, he scored goals against Italy in both games, both in Norway and in the game in San Siro, and he is just really really powerful, a really good winger, and pairing him with Holland can only mean good things. So, possibly a controversial opinion, I would pick Norway to top the group, followed by France, followed by Senegal, followed by the Intercontinental lamb to the slaughter. So, yeah, I think that team is getting 0 points. Absolutely. I don't think they're even going to draw a single match, but yeah, the other games will be interesting. I think Norway will still top it overall. It's not going to be 9 points. I think maybe 7, I want to say. Yeah, I think they can... obviously, they can beat the intercontinental country. I think they can then draw Senegal. Sorry, not beat Senegal, actually. And then draw France. Now, I will say, actually, Norway, do they have the best defense in the world? No, they do not. They are not Ecuador or was it Ecuador or Colombia? I get those two mixed up all the time. They do not have the best defense in the world. They leak goals sometimes against, ironically, Moldova, and also Italy, and I think Estonia as well, actually. But they leak goals once in a while. They're not England, but I think they can score so many goals the other way that it really doesn't matter. And I think they'll be fine leaking 1 or 2 goals if it means they can score 4 or 5 or something like that. So, yeah, I think Norway will actually top the group, and France will be second. Senegal will be third, but they will advance to the knockouts, and the Intercontinental Lamb to Slaughter will get 0 points. So that is Group I, the group of death. Let's move on to Group J, where we have Argentina, Algeria, Austria, and Jordan. And this is another really crazy match. Not match, actually. This is a crazy group because obviously we have 3 countries which all start and end with the letter A. And right now, as of recording this, the Arab Cup match is happening between Jordan and Saudi Arabia. And if I'm reading this correctly, they have beaten Saudi Arabia. Jordan have beaten Saudi Arabia 1-0. The game's over now, actually, but it was happening as I started the recording. But Jordan has beaten not the UAE, Saudi Arabia 1-0. And they are through to the final of the Arab Cup. So let's see how well they do. I will probably edit in some sort of result here when I do actually get around to editing this video. But let's get back to the World Cup for a sec. Obviously, Argentina need no introduction. They are one of the top sides on the planet. And then we have Algeria, which are also one of the top sides in Africa. And Austria, people rate them, but I don't particularly do. I mean, they struggled against Bosnia in the last day of qualifying. They barely beat Bosnia by 1 goal. Had that goal... Well, okay, they drew that match against Bosnia, but had they not scored that goal, Bosnia would be in this position right now, and I think that's not a good indictment on how well they do at the World Cup. And then we have Jordan, who are debutants at the World Cup. They have a really good attack, and proven by the fact that they scored 1-0 against a pretty competent Saudi Arabia, but they have a pretty good attack, and they have qualified for the World Cup for the first time. So it's going to be very exciting times for them. And I think Argentina is pretty much locked for the top spot. I don't see any indications that it would be otherwise. But then I'm not really sure how to go about the rest. Right now, I think I absolutely rate Algeria more than Austria, so I think I would put Algeria second in the group. Do I put Jordan through? Do I group Austria? You know what? I will put Jordan third, Austria fourth, but Jordan doesn't go through. Jordan, it will be one of the teams that gets knocked out before the knockout. If that makes sense. They won't. I don't think they will make it to the knockout stage, but it is possible that they do. Maybe they are the 8th team to do it, just barely hanging on by the coattails, because they are a side that can score a lot of goals, just like Algeria, just like Argentina. Austria is not one of those teams. I honestly think Austria could get grouped here. So, yeah. Again, it could be a controversial opinion. I think Austria would get grouped. Jordan might barely make it through to the knockouts and then immediately lose their first game in the round of 32. And then Algeria will advance as well, and obviously Argentina will as well. So, yeah, that is Group J. Now let's move on to Group K, where we have Portugal, and then the Intercontinental Path 1 winner, which will be either DR Congo, Jamaica, or New Caledonia. Let's face it, it's going to be DR Congo. And then we have Uzbekistan, and we have Colombia. Now, I'll be honest, I do not know that much about Colombia, but they are a very strong side in South America. I almost said South Africa there, but none of these sides are bad per se. I mean, DR Congo obviously didn't qualify directly in Africa, but they are still a really solid side. They actually came second behind, I think it was the Senegal. So yeah, they are not a bad side at all. I mean, they managed to beat Nigeria, they managed to beat Cameroon. These are all really strong sides in Africa as well, so do not sleep on DR Congo. This will be their first World Cup since 1974, when they were called Zaire. And but someone has to get grouped, right? This is this is the World Cup. Someone has to get grouped, and I'm struggling, man. Let's start from the top. Let's start with Portugal. I think someone put it best that I can't remember the exact term, but basically what they said was that Ronaldo, he's a good player, but it's best to leave him off the starting bench. If he starts for Portugal, it's not good news for Portugal, as we saw in the game against Ireland. But if you leave him off the bench for a while, or rather leave him on the bench for a while and then sub him in later, then that could be good things. And in the game immediately after the loss to Ireland, obviously Portugal did amazingly against Armenia, 9-1, but yeah, I think that could be true as well. They've also removed the suspension for the red card or whatever it was, so that's kind of BS, but what can you do? It's not up to us to decide what happens in these kind of cases. But yeah, Portugal, there's very much a competent side, but I don't think they are as good as some tout them to be, possibly Ronaldo fanboys. I think they can reasonably top this group, but maybe not convincingly. So I think the struggle now for me is, does Uzbekistan get grouped, or does DR Congo get grouped, or do they both get grouped? So, you know what, I will say Portugal does win the group, but only by goal difference. Just maybe 1 or 2 goals ahead of Colombia. And then after that, oh god, I really don't know, because Uzbekistan, it might seem like a random name, but they've been on the edge of qualifying for the World Cup for the last 2 to 3 World Cups at this point. They are really, really competent side in Asia. They have a great defense while not playing explicitly defensive football. And then you have DR Congo, which are a very powerful side, very athletic, very aggressive side if they need to be. You have Chancel Mbemba, of course, as I mentioned in my Africa video. But yeah. Whew. God, I really don't know. I could see all 4 teams having 3 points minimum. But one of them has to get grouped, and honestly, on current form, oh god, I really don't know. I'm not sure I want to pick right now. Look, if it's Jamaica or New Caledonia, God bless, they would absolutely be last in the whole thing. But if it's DR Congo, this makes it a lot more challenging. And let's see where the matches are being held, at least. Okay, you know what? Right now, I'll give the slight edge to DR Congo. I'm sorry, I really want Uzbekistan to make the knockouts, but right now, based on climate, a lot of these matches are taking place in hotter cities like Houston, like Mexico City. I think DR Congo would play better in that kind of climate, and so right now I will give the slightest of edges to Uzbekistan, but of course things could change. Their form could improve or get worse. They're also in the AFCON, of course, so we can see how well they do there, and maybe make a more informed decision leading up to the World Cup. But right now, I would give the slight edge to the DR Congo, and therefore, unfortunately, Uzbekistan is grouped and in their first ever World Cup, which just absolutely sucks. But just to recap, I would put Portugal on top, and then Colombia, and then DR Congo, and then Uzbekistan. So, with that heartbreak, let's move on to Group L, the final group actually, which will have England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. I mean, I'm not going to lie, that looks like a pretty good ranking already. I don't think I need to change anything. I think that's exactly what's going to happen in the end. Just based on current form and how well these teams do against the other teams. I will say that Thomas Tuchel's England is somewhat disappointing me in that they aren't scoring a load of goals. They haven't conceded a single one, which is absolutely impressive, but they haven't scored a ton of goals either. I mean, we all remember only beating Andorra by 1-0, which is absolutely crazy. You'd expect a lot more goals from a team of the caliber of England, but I think that's actually a really good ranking for them. I think Ghana are a good side, but like Cape Verde, they did not qualify for the AFCON, and I think Croatia can beat them as well. But I think they could also very reasonably draw with England. So yeah, I would put it like this exact order. I mean, Panama made it, and if we think about it, like, okay, Suriname, they missed out on qualification just on the last day, but honestly, if Suriname were in this group, they wouldn't have a hope in hell either. So yeah, maybe it's not that big of a deal that Suriname didn't qualify directly. They would be put in Group L with England and Croatia that they have to play against. But I think that's actually a pretty good ranking. England topping the group, Croatia second, Ghana third. I think they will make the knockout, and Panama last, and they get grouped again and probably destroyed by England again. So third place teams, they've not been added here yet, obviously. But just to recap every single group here, let's go back to Group A. I think that South Africa will top the group, followed by Mexico, followed by UEFA Path D, followed by South Korea. For Group B, I think that Switzerland will top the group, followed by Canada, followed by UEFA Path A, followed by Qatar. For Group C, I think Morocco will top the group, followed by Brazil, followed by Scotland, followed by Haiti. For Group D, I think, I actually can't remember. I think Paraguay tops the group, then the US, then UEFA Path C if it's Turkey, and then Australia in fourth, or if it's Kosovo, then Australia is in third, and Kosovo is fourth. For Group E, I think Germany tops the group, followed by Ivory Coast, I think, and then Ecuador, and then Curacao. For Group F, I think Japan tops this group, and then the Netherlands, and then Poland, UEFA Path B, of course, and then Tunisia. For Group G, I think Iran tops this group, and then Belgium, and then Egypt, and then New Zealand. For Group H, Spain tops this group, obviously. Uruguay, and then Cape Verde, probably. although I could very easily see those swapping around. And then at the bottom, Saudi Arabia. For Group I think Norway tops it, followed by France, followed by Senegal, followed by the intercontinental lamb to the slaughter. For Group J, Algeria tops it. Argentina tops it. Algeria gets second, Jordan gets third, and then Austria gets fourth, but neither of them make the knockouts. For Group K, Portugal tops it, followed by Colombia, followed by DR Congo, and then Uzbekistan. And then finally for Group L, it's as seen here, England tops it, and then Croatia, and then Ghana, and then Panama. And that is about it. I don't think I'm going to pick all of the 8 countries that go through from the third place, but I do have something that I've just opened up here on my phone, which is a list of the friendlies that some of the World Cup countries are going to be playing over the next few months. Now, what you need to understand is that for World Cup preparation friendlies, you've got 2 main windows. The first one is March, basically. In fact, it's mostly late March. And then the second window is sort of late May to early June, right before the actual World Cup itself. Now, let's go through these. A lot of these are European teams, but the Netherlands are going to be playing Norway and Ecuador in March. Let me find the Netherlands real quick. There we go. Yeah, the Netherlands are going to be playing Norway and Ecuador in March, and in May they're actually going to be playing another team that I'm not going to talk about yet. And then for Norway, I already talked about this. Well, I didn't talk about this, but for Norway, obviously they're going to be playing Netherlands. It will be an away game, which means that the Netherlands are hosting it. But Norway are also playing Switzerland at home. So Switzerland are going to be going to Oslo to play Norway, which is going to be a really interesting game. And this will be our first indication, I think, after the qualification period to see, to prove how good Norway really is. Because up to this point, they've been playing relatively easier opponents. They've been playing a not very good Italy. So playing the Netherlands and Switzerland in March will be a very interesting window to show whether they really are the team that can truly be the dark horse of next year's tournament. And then Switzerland, they are playing Norway, of course. It will be in Oslo. And then they are also playing Germany in a home game in Switzerland. So that will be very interesting as well. And, we can now go to Germany, of course. Germany are playing Switzerland away. And there are rumors, we don't know this for sure, but they might be playing Ivory Coast. Okay, these must have been like older rumors. I've just collected some of them, but they were probably trying to plan a game against the Ivory Coast. But the next friendly will regardless be a home game. It probably can't be Ivory Coast now because they prohibit friendly matches against countries in the same group, so Germany probably aren't playing Ivory Coast, to be honest. But so that is Germany. And now let's move to South America, where Brazil are playing France and Croatia. And not only Brazil, but also Colombia are also playing France and Croatia. My understanding is that it's going to be played in Brazil and in Colombia or something like that, but it will be in March, actually. So yeah, France and Croatia are playing against Brazil and Colombia in March. And then for Japan, it'll be a very interesting affair because they will play against England and also Scotland. And I don't know why they picked those to be specific, but Japan, it's been reported in Japanese press that they are playing Scotland in a friendly in March actually, and it will be a home game for Scotland and a home game for England as well. And England, speaking of them, they will actually be playing another friendly in addition to the one with Japan. They will also play against Uruguay. So it will be an interesting set of friendlies. So they will both take place well, in the Wembley, I think. I actually can't remember. It's a home game for England, okay? I think it's in London. I can't remember the exact name of the stadium, but they are playing Japan and Uruguay. And then after that, let's move to North America, because the US have just confirmed that they are playing Belgium, Portugal, Senegal, and Germany. For Belgium and Portugal, they'll be playing those games in March, and for Senegal, that will be played in late May, and for Germany, that will be in early June. So that's another friendly that you can mark for Germany. They'll be playing the USA, the USMNT in early June, just right before the actual World Cup. And Mexico are actually also going to be playing Belgium and Portugal. So they can get some practice against these European sides, and it'll be interesting, but we don't really know what they're going to play in late May and early June yet. So yeah, that's Mexico, and as mentioned just now, Portugal and Belgium will be playing the US and Mexico. I believe all matches are happening in Miami. I don't know that for sure, but I did read that it was Portugal and Belgium, or the Portuguese and Belgian teams, traveling to North America instead of the other way around. And then after that, we have one rumor, which is an interesting one for sure, which is that South Korea, or it's called Korea Republic on FIFA, in the FIFA website. South Korea are going to be allegedly playing Austria. I don't know why, but this is also just a rumor. They're still trying to get the schedules to confirm everything, but it is just a rumor. But I don't know why they would book Austria of all countries. But yeah, South Korea may or may not be playing Austria in March. And then I've saved the best for last, because I managed to find an interview where the Curaçaoans say which teams they're going to be playing as friendlies up to the World Cup. Now, lower expectations for a lot of these games. We don't actually know which teams they're going to be playing, but what we do know is that in March they will play 2 matches, both in Miami, against South American teams. Hopefully South American Giants, according to the article. And then their last game, actually, let's not talk about the last game. The second to last game is going to be in late May, and it's going to be Curacao against, drumroll please, the Netherlands in Rotterdam. And that's really significant as well, because Rotterdam has one of the largest Curaçaoan diasporas in the entire world. It might be the largest. Some people say it's Boston. I might be mixing that up with Cape Verde, but yeah. The point is, in Rotterdam, they have a massive Curaçaoan diaspora, and in late May, Curaçao will be playing, allegedly, against the Netherlands in Rotterdam, with a large crowd of Curaçaoan diaspora watching as well, no doubt. And that will be their second to last friendly, and the last friendly will be a home send-off match. It will be played in Curaçao, and it will be played against a CONCACAF team. And right now the rumors are saying that it would possibly be Haiti, which is very appropriate because, of course, Haiti played half their home matches in Curaçao during the qualification process. So it will be a really interesting thing, of course. But we must also remember that in the first round of CONCACAF qualifying, Haiti got beaten by Curacao, 7-1 or something like that? 5-1, some sort of crazy ratio like that. Alright, so I'm actually recording this segment a month after the fact because I am terrible at recording a video and then editing it to release it on time. But as of recording this video, AFCON is over. That final was absolutely insane. But let's get back to the World Cup for a sec, and let's talk about some of the friendlies that are going to take place between different countries in the build-up to the tournament. So the first thing I want to talk about is the FIFA series, or the FIFA World Series. This is a thing that they started just a couple of years ago, where they're gonna have like random teams that have never played each other, or have little opportunity to play each other, and you can see here we've got South Africa versus Andorra or whatever. And just recently they announced who will be hosting the different matches for the 2026 edition of the FIFA World Series. You can see here Australia, Azerbaijan, but in fact, the folks over at the Sweeper Pod have actually compiled this graphic right here. It's a little bit crunchy, but it doesn't matter that much. We're just trying to get a general picture here, and not all of these teams are going to play each other. For example, you can see here you've got Curacao, China, Cameroon, and Australia, but actually Curacao will not be playing Cameroon, I think. I can't actually remember, but we'll look at Curacao and Cape Verde in a minute. But you can see here Cape Verde is also in this group with New Zealand, Finland, and Chile. There's some really interesting matchups as well. Aruba, Macau, Tanzania, and Liechtenstein. Azerbaijan and Sierra Leone and St. Lucia and Oman. Yeah, there's some really interesting pairings. Turks and Caicos versus Cote d'Ivoire. And again, I need to stress that not all of these pairings will happen, but I think the idea is that each team in one of these groups will be playing two of the other opponents. And I don't know if there really is like any sort of winner or anything like that. It's mostly just friendlies, but we'll get back to them, especially Curacao and Cape Verde. But for some of these teams, you can see they are like World Cup participating countries, like Uzbekistan, for example, like Curacao, Cape Verde, Australia, New Zealand, and DR Congo most likely, but Brazil, Canada, South Korea, so on and so forth. Some of these teams are World Cup participating teams, and they're going to take part in this FIFA World Series or FIFA Series. So if you're interested in what your favorite team will play against, you can just look those up. For this video, I'm going to take a look at Curacao and Cape Verde in a minute, but before we get to those, speaking of countries that did not qualify for AFCON but did qualify for the World Cup, let's look at Ghana, who will be playing Germany and Austria in friendlies in March. I think I talked about one of these in the previous bit when I did this friendly segment in the previous bit like a month ago. But Ghana will be traveling to Vienna, you can see here, to play Austria and also play Germany. I'm not sure whether it's a home game or not, but they will face Germany, and Germany, I already talked about some of their friendlies previously. They haven't really changed. Obviously, I very briefly mentioned the possibility of an Ivory Coast friendly, which obviously that's not happening, but they will still be playing friendlies against Switzerland and the US, I think, in late May or something like that. There's also this, according to the Herald, which is a which is a newspaper in the United Kingdom, they have reported that Scotland will play World Cup friendlies against Japan, Cote d'Ivoire, and Curacao and Peru. Now, this is really interesting. Japan, I think I talked about it in the previous segments. Japan is coming. I don't know why I'm saying coming. I'm not there, but Japan is going over to the UK to play England and Scotland as part of their friendlies for March. But we didn't really know, other than Japan, what teams that Scotland were going to play. And it turns out they are going to play Cote d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast, at Everton, which I believe is Liverpool. It's in England. I cannot remember if it's Liverpool or wherever. But they will be playing Cote d'Ivoire / Ivory Coast at Everton. That will be their second international friendly in March. And then they will be playing Curacao. Yes, Curacao. At home in Scotland in Glasgow. I can't remember the name of the stadium right now. They'll be playing this match against Curacao at home, and then they'll also be playing Peru in, I think it's early June or something like that, in the run-up to the World Cup. So that will be really interesting. I do question some of these choices, considering Scotland isn't really. I don't know why they will be playing Curacao of all teams, but no, it is what it is. But on the topic of Curacao, it has been reported that Curacao will not play a send-off match on the island itself, apparently because of the lack of suitable training fields, and the farewell match will actually be played against Scotland at Hampden Park. So that will be, theoretically anyway, Curaçao's final international friendly before the World Cup. So that will be really interesting. Although I did read somewhere that they might, this is a very big if, they might play Cape Verde. I'm not even joking. Curaçao might play Cape Verde in Rotterdam. So let's see what happens. I don't know if that's going to take place, but this is the most up-to-date information that we have right now, that they will be playing Scotland at Hampden Park, and then Scotland will go on to play Peru in, I think, early June probably, but before that Scotland will play against Japan and Cote d'Ivoire in March. And yeah, those are the friendlies for Scotland, and let's go to look at Curacao really quick. You can see here, these are the FIFA series matches. They're playing China on the 27th, and then they're playing Australia on the 31st. You can see here, these matches are being hosted in Australia. They are being hosted in Sydney and Melbourne, and then on the 30th, they will be playing Scotland, like we mentioned, at Hampden Park. And then we go to the World Cup. Now, again, this is not completely confirmed. I think there's still at least one more match before the World Cup, and after playing Scotland, I think there's still one more CONCACAF match. I think I talked about it being Haiti, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I think, like I said, I read somewhere that they might be playing against Cape Verde in Rotterdam. We'll just have to see whether that happens. But speaking of Cape Verde, these are the FIFA series matches for them. They will be playing against Chile and Finland in New Zealand. So even though New Zealand is hosting this series of matches in Auckland, Cape Verde is actually not going to be playing against New Zealand at all, but this is an interesting set of matches, not least because Chile and Finland neither of them are going to be at the World Cup, but we'll see how well they do against these non-World Cup sides, and I imagine they're going to beat Finland. Probably beat Chile as well. They haven't been doing amazing at the World Cup qualifiers, but yeah, there's those. We haven't gotten too many reports on what what friendlies they might play at the end of May and at the beginning of June either. Like I said a million times at this point, they might play Curacao. If I get any more information while editing this video, I'll put it up on screen right now. But that's about it for now, really. This is all the new information that we've got. We have the FIFA series, or the FIFA World Series, where you've got countries like DR Congo playing possibly against Thailand. You've got Uzbekistan possibly playing Trinidad and Tobago. And then you've got some American ones here, like Guam playing Puerto Rico or something like that, or maybe not. I don't actually know how the arrangements of the matches go, but yeah, some of these are World Cup sides, and they'll be playing mostly non-World Cup sides, like Cote d'Ivoire against Pakistan. These are some matches that you never imagine would take place, but they are taking place thanks to this FIFA World Series thing, and I find it interesting that there aren't too many European sides. There's Bulgaria, who are apparently playing like Solomon Islands or whatever, but and obviously Finland are playing Cape Verde. But yeah, it's interesting, and I'm glad this is happening. But yeah, that's really about it in terms of more up-to-date information about international friendlies leading up to the World Cup. But yeah, those are some of the friendlies that are going to be played in March and in May and June ahead of the World Cup, and it'll be a very interesting show. And of course, for now, if you want any sort of content for international football, you can always follow the AFCON, which by the time I post this video should be happening now, and a lot of the teams in there, at least some of the better teams, are also African sides that have qualified to the World Cup, with the exception, of course, of Cape Verde and Ghana. But otherwise, teams like Senegal, teams like DR Congo, Algeria, Morocco, they have all qualified for the AFCON, and they will be competing this month, and in fact, maybe right now, if you're watching this, and it'll be a good indicator of what lies ahead for these African sides at the World Cup. And yes, I did follow AFCON closely. You would know that if you followed my alternate linguistics account on Twitter. I was practically live tweeting every single match, or well, most of the matches. But I still don't really feel like I want to make a separate video talking about AFCON, mostly because I just don't know enough about African football to begin with, and also, their performance at this AFCON is not necessarily indicative of their performance at the World Cup. Think DR Congo, for example, who have been missing Wisa, who will probably be at the World Cup should the DR Congo qualify for the World Cup. So, it's not necessarily indicative. Plus, some teams will have new coaches, like Tunisia. They've already fired their current coach. So, this is not necessarily fully indicative of their performance at the World Cup. Morocco could bounce back from that loss to Senegal. Other teams could step up, like Algeria, for example. And also, different sides can practice a little bit more within the team and get a little bit more cohesive. For example, Brahim Diaz is pretty new to the Moroccan squad. He can play a bit more with the squad and play a bit more with the likes of Hakimi to really play better together effectively. And so, like I said, I think they can bounce back from their loss at the AFCON final, and other teams can also have new players join, or just have injured players recover enough to go to the World Cup effectively. So yeah, I don't think the performance at this AFCON is necessarily a good indication of what's going to happen at the World Cup. They could overperform, they could underperform, anything is possible. And yeah, so I don't feel like I'm going to make a separate video for AFCON, but if you did watch AFCON, leave some comments to tell me what you think of the final, what do you think of the tournament in general. But yeah, that's really about it. I watched AFCON for the first time ever, and it was a lot more dramatic than I had expected, but at the same time less dramatic than I had expected. But I do expect it to be a bit more dramatic going into the 2027 AFCON, and I'm also interested in sides like Cape Verde, who are having done the World Cup, will have more experience at big tournaments like AFCON, and I think they'll qualify. We'll just have to see how well they do at the next AFCON if they qualify for it. So yeah, let's see what happens. But I did enjoy following the AFCON for the first time ever, and I can't wait to follow it some more. So that is gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my commentary on the World Cup draw and the information about the upcoming friendly games. Hope you enjoyed. Like this video if you did. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss my upcoming content, and I'll see you next time.